We begin Breakfast Central this morning in South Africa, where its Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, has announced his intentions to appeal against the two judgments which declared his decision to terminate the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit, ZEP, as unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. Now, this comes after the High Court in Pretoria ordered the government not to deport or detain holders of the permit, which gave about 180,000 Zimbabweans permission to remain in South Africa. The court challenge was brought by the Helen Suzman Foundation and the Consortium for Refugees and Migrants in South Africa after the minister announced the end of the program in 2021. Motsoaledi, of course, argues that his decision not to renew the permit was a matter of policy within his powers as a minister. The Zimbabwe exemption permits will remain valid for the next 12 months pending the process. Now, joining us to discuss this further is the spokesperson for Zimbabwe community in South Africa, Bongani Ngwenya. Thanks for joining us and good morning to you.
Hi, thank you very much. Good morning to the viewers.
All right. Now, as a member of the Zimbabwe community in South Africa, what does this ruling by the court mean to you? And are there angles that are not being brought up in the whole conversation?
The primary thing is that the court has not ruled that the minister should not cancel the special permits. It has ruled that he should follow due process and that the manner of cancellation did not follow due process, and that's why it becomes unlawful and invalid. Some people might make the mistake that it means he must reverse that decision. No, it simply means he must follow due process, do consultations with the affected parties, so that when he comes to a conclusion, it is going to be a fair conclusion. And this would mean that in the 12 months that has been given to him, he can still come back to the same decision. So that ruling effectively does not direct the minister to reverse a decision, but merely to follow the promotion of Administrative Justice Act.
Okay, let's also talk about what the minister should have done. We know that the court ruling was quite scathing of Motsoaledi and the department. They said that the basic rules of promotion, or rather the basic rules of administration of justice, were not met. What do you think that the minister should have done in relation to public participation before cancelling the permits?
According to PAJA, any administrative act taken, the affected parties should be consulted and made aware of that such a decision is pending, and they should make representations on how this decision will affect them. So the minister should have gone to all affected parties, that is including civil society and businesses and other entities in South Africa. For example, one can put an example to say some old lady, 75 years old, has been dependent on this trusted person that they've worked with maybe for the past 11 years. Now this person is suddenly going to leave. The affected party also becomes the person who employed that ZEP holder to say, well, how are we going to be affected by a decision that I'm going to take? Despite it being a policy decision, it still has an effect in society, because these people would have spent a long time working together or staying together, creating relationships, be it fraternal relationships, be it business relationships.
No, I want to talk about, I want you to talk a little bit more about these Zimbabweans are going to be affected. You know, they have, it says about 180,000 of them, and now they have a 12-month extension for the permit holders. Talk about the Zimbabwean community and, what their plans are. If these permits are not renewed, what can they do? Do they have to, reapply for new paperwork, or is there the possibility of being kicked out of South Africa?
Well, we had done some surveys, and from the number of respondents, which wasn't as many as we had hoped for, we had about 500 something respondents to that survey, and 98% of those said they are not returning to Zimbabwe, meaning they intend to stay in South Africa. We would understand because after having spent so many years living and staying in South Africa, to recreate the same conditions or livelihood in Zimbabwe would actually be a bit of a task for them. So initially, when the people who were of low skill tried to apply for wavering of certain requirements like the labor letter and skills wavering, they found that they could not, and they were rejected by the Department of Home Affairs. Recently in March, we had the minister saying, look, he's been signing those waivers, and he actually more or less encourage people to say, look, that's a pathway that I'm going to use to assist you to move to mainstream permit. So we see Zimbabweans should try and go via the waiver route to get into mainstream visas, since the minister is also favorable of that pathway.
All right, excuse me. The Minister of Home Affairs has said that he would appeal the decision. He believes that the court has overstepped into the executive area of government. I'd like to find out what your thoughts are about this. Do you agree with him?
Look, without trying to be the minister's spokesperson, I would understand if the ministries are grieved of this decision, and naturally they would appeal. I'm not too sure as to the reasoning behind it. We are yet to see any court documents that would indicate what is his reasoning. One of his remarks was that it sets a dangerous precedence. So we are yet to fully understand what that really means and entails. But then we acknowledge and understand the sovereignty of the South African government and its right to make decisions in policy that defend and promote South Africa. So I wouldn't want to start to talk about why the minister was going to challenge without seeing the full detail. But we still acknowledge they have the right to challenge a decision that seems not to favor them.
All right. Well, we'll see how this turns, and of course, the Zimbabwean community, I'm sure, is, little on the edge at this point, and waiting for the feedback from, of course, the South African courts. We'll see how it turns. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Bongani. We'll speak with you again.
Thank you very much, and good day to the viewers.